And we're back. Day 108 of the winter cut. Still okay calling it the winter cut because it snowed 6 inches this morning, so definitely still winter up in Calgary. But how are you guys doing today? Me, well, I think the best way to describe how I feel is I've definitely felt better than this before in my life. Because if you guys remember the squat vlog that I posted on Sunday, I definitely did not feel very good on that day, so I decided to have a refeed the next night to try to get some calories and fullness back in me, and woke up the next Monday morning at 2:35. Well, it's now Wednesday, and I'm already back down to 2:30 that I was on Sunday morning, albeit a little bit less flat than I was on Sunday. So good news is that the metabolism is definitely cranking right now. Bad news is that with that, I am absolutely feeling the diet something severe. But it's still speed squat, max effort deadlift day, so we got to crank. And something topical that came up in the team's live call yesterday morning is, at what point does training by RPE just become a way to let excuses get in the way of working hard? And I think the best answer to that is that if you're using RPE as a way to justify working less hard, you have like a fundamental understanding of how RPE is supposed to work. Because with how I'm feeling today, I'm not using RPE as an excuse to work less hard, but I'm using RPE as a reason to make sure that I'm bringing the absolute best effort and intent that I can to everything that I'm doing today. And with that, to more appropriately challenge what I felt like needs challenging on the weekend's SSB, brought my cambered bar in so we could run some high bar cambered pauses for the speed work. Because the difference between a real cambered bar and the cambered attachments that I have been running on the SSB for my speed is that when the cambered attachments are on the SSB, like, yes, the weight's hanging lower, but it's still loaded out in front of you, so it makes it really easy to bring that anterior rib down pack. But with the cambered bar being more back-loaded, it makes it really easy to want to fling rib cage around. So my job today is to make sure that rib cage ain't flinging. And because it's been literal years since I've squatted with this bar, I have no clue what I should really be using for my work set loading, so we're just going to load 2, see how it feels, and then make some judgment calls from there. I really don't like percentage prescriptions on speed work, since prescribing a percentage is kind of missing the point of doing speed work. Because the goal of speed work is to pick a weight that you can accelerate through the entire range of motion, and the reason I don't like percentages for dictating that weight is depending on the lifter, depending on their leverages, depending on the variation they're doing, that percentage range might vary. So depending on how this one feels, we'll be able to decide how much weight we should put on to get us closer to working set range. Also, that might depend on how sketchy it feels to unrack and re-rack this bar. Because it's a little bit narrow for this rack. Conclusion, we're definitely going up. And in an effort to not waste time, we're just going straight to 3 because it'll probably be close enough. So if I get the feel that I'm looking for here, we'll just run our work sets here. If not, we'll make some adjustments. Still trying to figure out like where exactly to put this bar to make it both a high bar and feel secure, so bear with me. I gotta get better at that. Close enough, we're on a 5 dubs here. And I gotta be so freaking cognizant of my ab tension to make that work that this was definitely a good call. And bring in the re-rack, breathe a couple times, under-rack protocol of the squats. Really kind of sucks, FYI. But we're almost done, so I guess just suck it up and go. Woo! Abs are freaking tired. Holy. And I just leaned on the GHR, trying to catch my breath, and I looked over at the bar and noticed that the plates were sliding off because apparently this dumbass forgot to put a collar on one side. So glad I didn't die. But the point I was going to make there before I noticed the plate loading kerfuffle is that if you are going to make speed work, because the weight is so relatively light, you need to make it your job to work as hard as you can to ensure that you're getting enough work out of that light weight. I realize I said work way too many times in that sentence, but at this point in my life, I really don't care. Anyways, the reason that is always so important to bring up is when I see a guy who is struggling with making conjugate work for them, most of the time the problem is that they are distributing way too much of their effort in the session to their max effort work at the expense of their speed work and their secondaries and accessories. The reason that that is a problem is that yes, max effort work is what's going to be showing us where our strength is at, but the secondaries, the accessories, the speed work is what needs to be there to actually build strength. So if you're sacrificing that work for the sake of making a single session's max effort work better, like yes, you might be able to do better on max effort on one given day, but what you're really losing out on is the ability to build momentum that will be necessary to put together a meet prep. And I know that I have really been prioritizing sumo the last couple of months on this cut, but this week is the test week for the Team Activated Cut Challenge, and I figure for that I should probably do the variation that might make me sadder, but will probably be a more accurate representation of where my strength actually is right now. So yeah, we're pulling conventional, and hopefully it still feels like cheating. Feels pretty okay compared to the deficit last week. And part of the reason I wanted to pull conventional today off the floor is based on how last week's deficit went. I want to see if any of the little accessory tweaks that I made after that conventional pull actually did anything for me. And I know that 1 week isn't a lot of time to see any significant change, but if I really pay attention and notice that things seem to be going in the right direction, I'm going to know if the changes that I made are going in the right direction, I guess. Feels better than last week for sure. Was really happy with how that one felt, but then Darrell let me know that my knee lock was a little bit late, so we're gonna do our best to fix that on 5 plates. Anyways, the cut challenge, the whole premise behind it is that there are a lot of people in the team right now that are powerlifters that are trying to improve their body composition, so I figured I'd set something up to make it a little bit competitive and a little bit exciting. And it's like, if we're powerlifters that are trying to improve our body composition, the real goal is to improve body composition while holding on to as much strength as we can. So in the challenge, whoever loses the most amount of weight while maintaining the most strength is going to win an ELITEFTS SS yoke bar. Second place gets an ELITEFTS American Cambered bench bar, and third place gets an ELITEFTS P3 Pioneer Cut belt. So if you are about to start a cut or you need an excuse to start one, hop in the team, join in on the challenge, because not only are you going to have a chance to win some really cool stuff, you're also going to be able to get individualized coaching from me the whole way through. Anyways, going for a better quad block here. Yeah, that was way better. Thank you. And like, the biggest benefit of the team isn't just the cut challenge, it's the fact that you're gonna have eyes on every single thing you're doing in training, so that you know what cues you need to implement so that you can do better, You know what accessories you should be running so you can do better. You know what you need to be doing with your techniques so you can be better. And the reason that I'm so freaking fired up about the team all the time is that it is so cool for me to be able to give lifters feedback on the same day that they're doing stuff so they can get better just like that. My whole goal with the team is to make the highest level of powerlifting coaching possible accessible to every single lifter on earth. And it's one of those things where if everyone watching this understood how much they are getting for that $69 a month, everyone watching this would be in there. And I know that some people are hesitant because it is a group setting and they're worried that they're not going to get the attention that they deserve. But the coolest part about how the platform is set up is that it's allowing me to give one-on-one level feedback to literally every single person in there. And the fact that it is a group setting means that you're able to see the feedback that I'm giving to everyone else. So it's just going to expedite your learning process as both a lifter and a coach. So if you want to get the most out of your training that you possibly can, hit the link below, join the team, and everyone in the team, do me a favor, drop a comment below, tell everyone how sick it is so I can shut up and pull this next set. Anyways, like I was saying at the beginning of this, the goal of adhering to an RPE prescription isn't to limit how much effort I'm putting in because I feel tired and hungry today. It is to put the best effort that I can into that RP prescription, so we're gonna bring it for this set so I can earn at least another jump. Also, update, I still hate the liquid chalk, but I guess we're just dealing with it. Yeah, not terrible. I'd say that was good enough that we earned at least one more jump. And the reason that hard quad flex is so important for my pull is that if I couple the quad flex with a hard hamstring contraction, that quad contraction is going to help me lever my hips through. Also, what's cool about these pulls today is that all the sumo work I've been doing is definitely paying off, because what normally happens when I'm dieting and try to pull conventional is that because there's so much less of me to like run into each other in the bottom, I have so much less tension and compression. And the reason I think sumo is valuable for learning the skill of creating tension when there is less of me down there is that sumo, because I'm more opened up, I'm forced to use muscles to create tension, not just rely on compression. So even though conventional's feeling really good right now, we're definitely going to be keeping sumo in the rotation pretty heavily. Anyways, headphones in, fun music on, nose torque at the ready. Nope. After all that bottom end feels good talk, that was a little bit embarrassing, not gonna lie. But my excuse right now is that I kind of fucked up my brace because being this skinny, I don't think my belt was tight enough. So I'm gonna run the belt a hole tighter and find out if that is a valid excuse or if I am just that weak right now. Because my motto is, if you think you can fix it, you should probably try to fix it. So update, fix in the bottom end, kind of worked, but I guess I'm just too weak to lock out 635 right now, so back to being embarrassed. And I know some of you guys might be thinking right now, like, why would I want to listen to a powerlifting coach that just missed a 635 deadlift twice? But what I want you to pay attention to here is how I'm handling this miss. Like, I'm not freaked out, I'm not punching walls, I'm not throwing a hissy fit and like talking about quitting powerlifting. I'm totally calm and totally fine with it because, number one, I know that I have both the experience and the toolkit that when I get on the platform in December, like, this miss isn't going to mean shit. And if anything, missing this today is going to help me do a better job because it's making me more aware of where my current limitations are, both strength-wise and attempt selection-wise with the diet. And because I missed this today, it's going to let me make smarter choices with my training moving forward because, again, I have the toolkit to know that I know how to handle this. And by using that toolkit, I know that this miss isn't a big deal. And I mean, the obvious problem back there is that I probably should have taken a smaller jump. And like, the obvious bad news is that I missed that, and 635 is really light compared to what Fat Guy Seth used to be able to pull. But considering how I feel today and where my pull was at this level of feeling during the last stage of the cut, like I missed less than 635 at one point at the very beginning of my last meet prep in December. And once food came in and I figured out the levers, like I was still able to have a really good meet day. Like I pulled a PR, squatted a PR, hit a PR total. So I'm not happy with missing that, but I'm at least not worried. And like the really good news is that missing it that way absolutely confirmed that it was smart of me to bring the Nordic bench in here, because I definitely need to start cooking hamstrings harder, especially with how not good running a Nordic at this angle feels, because I used to be much better at these as well. And like my reasoning for that is I just didn't have a good bench through Nordics, didn't have a good GHR, so I just wasn't doing a ton of hamstring stuff since we've been here. So it's about time that we start doing more hamstring stuff so that we don't have a shitty mid-range sticking point again. And I know that I got rid of that mid-range sticking point once, so we can do it again. Trying my best to control my way down, but it just is not happening right now. Maybe I should bump her up for the next set. I'll probably bump her up for the next set, but we'll just finish her out here. Woo! Hammy's getting roasted. And once again, back to embarrassment. And big picture, who cares if being this weak right now feels embarrassing? Because I know that being this weak right now is a direct reflection of how hard I'm pushing the diet. And I know that pushing the diet this hard and losing this much weight is going to be necessary so that I can get lean enough to actually achieve my big picture powerlifting goals. Because the whole point of this cutting phase is to get lean enough that I can have a rebound, put on better tissue, and then be a more competitive 242 and 275 than I ever have been in the past. And even if there isn't like a whole lot that I can do about my barbell lifts kind of feeling like balls right now, what I can do is make sure that I'm pushing the right accessories hard enough so that all of the supporting structures that I need to be strong when calories come back in are in shape to actually let me be strong. So we are trying our best to control the shit out of the bottom end of these Nordics, because that is going to help that mid-range. It's actually feeling better at this angle than it did on Saturday, so not happy, but I'm okay with it. We got to get better at these. And the only way we're going to do that is by continuing to do them. So we're probably going to keep those in twice a week until they start to feel more and more closer to normal. And because once the hamstrings get sorted out, I still need glutes to actually finish the deadlift. So we're back on this guy to jam on some single leg RDLs. And when we're running them on a landmine, what we want to do is have the working leg away from the machine, grab onto it with the opposite hand, so that as we hinge, the landmine, T-bar row, whatever this thing is called, is going to push me that way, which is going to encourage some hip internal rotation, and then I can squeeze my way back out of that IR. So not only am I getting really, really, really gnarly glute training all the way through the top, I'm also able to access some hip internal rotation and make sure that that is still in shape. And judging by how rough that feels, definitely need to keep placing a priority on these guys. Hopefully 3 plates doesn't kill me here. Feels hefty. Yeah, that's good. The last one got a little bit spicy there. And other than the machine kind of shoving me into a little bit more IR, one of the other reasons that I like it is that because the machine is a little bit more stable and doing it with a dumbbell or kettlebell, I'm less limited by my ability to balance on them. And the final reason why I like running the single leg RDLs on a T-bar row machine specifically is that it makes it really easy to go straight into some T-bar rows after the single leg RDL is done. And I'm really trying to make sure that I'm generating thoracic flexion on the way down and then pull myself back into thoracic extension on the way up, because on top of those hamstrings and glutes, what's also important for finishing a deadlift is thoracic erector strength. And when I was doing these last week in the vlog, it definitely felt like I was getting enough thoracic extension, but what I realized when I was editing the vlog that I definitely was not, so that's why we're going a little bit lighter to make sure that I actually am getting the that I need to get what I want out of these. Because we gotta let that rib cage hang. Satisfactory effort. And now that the upper back stuff is over, we're gonna crank on the world's greatest leg extension, because kind of similar to that tech deck, the strength curve is just heavy through the entire range of motion. And like, it's so nice because most leg extensions, like the bottom end gets so freaking light that it feels almost useless. It's like actually being able to push it to the bottom, like number one, it feels better on my knees because I'm able to actually like create tension to carry through, but the quad pump and quad tension becomes so much more immense. And on that note, to get that immense tension, I probably got to go up a bit, so we'll do that. The reason I'm putting such a heavy emphasis on like stabilized machine stuff right now is the fact that like my barbell stuff obviously is so limited due to how I feel in the diet, how my leverages feel, my positioning, knowing what to do with that leverage and positioning, that because the barbell stuff is limited, like I want to put more effort and more energy into the things that I actually be productive on. And the fact that a machine is stabilized, like all I got to do is contract my legs. If all I got to do is contract my legs, then it's a lot easier to just contract my legs hard than it is to try to squat good. That got hard fast. That's what she said. Also gonna shut up for the next set so I can crank it even harder. And crank we shall. Boo. 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 Ah. There's more. Ah. Boo. Yeah, that was a satisfactory crank. I could not get over how gnarly this machine feels. Like it's worth coming to Calgary just to try the leg extension. Like I've never found a leg extension I can work this hard on. It is insane. And what I'm thinking for torso work to actually finish this session off is I want to experiment with something that I literally haven't done in a decade, because I used to run side bends pretty regularly when I was first starting, but as I got stronger, I kind of realized that it didn't feel like they were doing much for me at the time. But at the time when I first started powerlifting, I was really, really fat, so like oblique strength probably didn't matter too much for me. But with how my brace feels right now, I'm kind of getting desperate to see if there are some levers to pull that might improve it. So this is an experiment in that regard. And I'm gonna have to go up. I just wanna warm up left side as well. And again, running on the Smith machine so that I am both externally stabilized and can kind of lever against the machine to create a little bit harder contraction. And I mean, it's feeling spicy, so hopefully this does something good for me. And again, like, I'm not gonna know if it's working for at least a couple weeks, but I should at least be able to get an idea based on how my brace feels on Saturday. I said that got hard fast immediately after the set, but I also then realized that was the second time I said that in a 5-minute span, so I'm going to cut it out of the vlog. With how that first set felt afterwards, and I guess during as well, I'm at least hopeful that it is going to do something positive for me, so maybe I'll be able to placebo myself into feeling better, and even if it is a placebo, I might be okay with it. Yeah, that's pretty pathetic, so we should probably try to get that better over the next couple weeks. And like, obviously, again, I'm not thrilled with my performance on those deadlifts, but I also recognize that I am the coach that I am because I have training days like this. And obviously, we want to minimize the amount of bad training sessions we have. We want to minimize the amount of misses we have. But every bad training session is a learning opportunity. And I think the lesson that I was forced to learn today is that as this diet continues and as I start to feel lower and lower and lower, and as my leverages keep changing more and more and more and more, I need to be smarter with taking smaller jumps towards top sets, because what I realized today is, like, based on that 585 pull, I thought 635 would have been easy money, but clearly it wasn't. And the reason that that happened is I just wasn't aware enough of where my top end is with the current diet situation, with the current leverages. And in order to combat that, like, all I need to do the next time I pull is take some littler jumps, because those littler jumps are going to help me better gauge where the top end is, so I can get more better work in, rather than taking a rep that was probably too easy for max effort and then taking a rep or 2 reps that were obviously way too hard for max effort. And I think that the really important thing about having bad days in your own training, and I think one of the most important things that powerlifting coaches can do, is be in it enough that you have to struggle. And I know it's like popular to talk about in like the over hardcore, pseudo tough guy powerlifting world, that, people want to say that if powerlifting is hard for you, it means you've never done anything hard in your life. And I think, like, my counterpoint to the people that want to make posts about that is that if you think powerlifting is easy, you haven't tried hard enough for long enough for it to actually get difficult. Because I can say with absolute honesty that with how hard I've pushed powerlifting over the last 12 years, it is undoubtedly the hardest thing that I've ever done, but it's only been that difficult because I've challenged myself so many times over and over and over to grow as a lifter and grow as a human through powerlifting. And I think the reason that's important to be in it that much, if you are going to coach lifters, or at least have been in it for some period of your life that much for it to get very challenging, is that powerlifting coaching, fundamentally, like, everyone wants to think that it's just programming, it's just sets and reps, it's just being able to look at technique and know what to do. But fundamentally, like, the biggest thing that I do as a coach that's different than other coaches is I'm good at helping people navigate adversity, and I'm good at helping people not freak out when things don't go perfectly to plan. Because no matter how perfect the program is laid out, like, you're going to have shit go sideways. Like, I just had a lifter break up with his girlfriend at the very end of his meet prep, and he had a session that didn't go to plan because he was stressed and didn't sleep super great going into it, which is understandable. And, like, if I didn't know from experience of doing it myself, I might be a little bit freaked out. But because I know that he did not get weaker, he was just under-recovered and overstressed, and that bled into his training, like, I know that we didn't need to freak out, and he finished out his peak freaking phenomenally. And the only reason I was able to do that is because I've been through similar stuff. I've been through adversity, I've dealt with adversity, I know how to handle adversity, and that is, like, one of the biggest things that I'm trying to teach lifters with the team, because stuff is going to go sideways, stuff out of our control is going to happen, and if we know how to deal with it, if we have the tools in the tool bag, and we have those tools and trust them so that we don't panic, we're going to be able to have better outcomes in the long term. Because the worst thing that you can do is, if something does pop up, if something does not go to plan, if you let it make you panic, and if you let it freak you out, if you're panicking and freaking out, like, you're going to make bad choices, and those bad choices that you make due to panicking, that's what's going to screw a meet prep over. And on that note, I'm probably going to stop talking so I can go and rip out my cardio and then get home and answer everything to the team. And I think the last thing to say is, like, the team, with what I'm charging for it, I think another misconception is that people like see it as like a budget coaching option. They think that because they're not paying very much to be part of the team that they're not going to get a ton out of it. But like the coolest part about it is with how the school platform is set up. Like what I'm trying to do with it is I am trying to make it competitive in terms of a service level with coaches that are charging $300, $400, $500 a month, because if I can do more than the coaches that are charging that and give faster feedback and give better feedback, give more detailed feedback, give better programming, then it's like there's no reason for bad powerlifting coaching to ever exist again. And obviously there are a lot of coaches charging in that range that are doing very good, and I don't want to take away from them, but what I really want to do with the team is make it a way and get other coaches doing similar so that we can just get rid of bad powerlifting coaching altogether, because I get so frustrated with hearing that, you know, there are lifters that will send something to the coach and not hear from them for days on end and have a problem and have the coach not respond, or have a coach just not update programming, or have it just be like a copy and paste sent out to every lifter. So that's what we're doing with the team. And if you do need any help with anything powerlifting related, I want to help you. So hit that link below, hop in, because it really is my favorite thing on earth to help lifters. And that is why I'm doing everything that I'm doing. So peace out. Have a good night. I'll go get on the stair bell.